This is the And1 Chaos Rubber Outdoor Basketball. I'm Tony. Welcome back to Streetball Strategies.
Time for regret, I'm a champion, and I reign supreme. This is my time, crown me king. I'm a legend, and I reign supreme. This is my time, and I'm living my dream.
So today's a little bit different because usually I do two reviews for a basketball. The first impressions review, where it's to simulate going to a store and seeing the ball on the shelf and not being able to handle it at all, but giving you guys my expectations and hopes for the basketball. And then I give you a performance review after a few weeks of use and breaking in the basketball. But this basketball does not need two reviews, and you'll understand in a second why that is. First of all, you need to keep in mind expectation and intention. So And1's intention for this ball, who they intend this ball to be for, and your expectations of what to get out of this ball. Second important piece of information is that I paid $18 for this basketball. Now, I ordered this ball from Amazon. It came in the mail in a small box. It was like half the size of a shoebox box. And in that box, you get a piece of paper giving you some information about the ball, and you get a 12-inch And1 basketball pump. So here's my deal with inexpensive basketballs that come with a basketball pump. So when I get that pump with a cheaper basketball, I always think about the fact that why would you give me that pump, right? It's good to have the pump. I like that they include it. I like that's part of their package. But my thought is, when you give me that pump, I think that the reason you're giving me the pump is because the people who order that more inexpensive, cheaper basketball, they may not have any other basketballs to that point. It's very well may be their first basketball. If it's their first basketball, they very well may not have a way to inflate that basketball, so thus companies include pumps in with those cheaper basketballs so that you can inflate them. That tells me that these kinds of balls are intended for beginner basketball players. Not necessarily kids. I don't want to say kids because it doesn't have to be younger kids, but just players who are not into basketball yet, who don't yet have basketballs. Maybe this is their first basketball and so they need a pump. So that was kind of my first indicator of what this kind of ball is probably being intended for in terms of what And1 wants you to use this ball for. So instead of basketball pumps, include a way to measure PSI for basketballs, at least basketballs that are intended for intermediate or advanced use. That's what I'd like to see. But when you get a cheaper ball and it comes with a pump, that's a pretty good indicator to me that that ball is intended for new users. When we get into the actual build of the basketball, this is a straight rubber basketball, completely standard in its material. While the rubber feels very standard, very average for an outdoor rubber basketball, the problem is in this cover, the material on the rubber of the basketball that gives it this cool design, right? So you got rubber, and then you have what is kind of like a plastic kind of sticker that they just kind of stuck on top of this ball. When you put that plastic on top of this rubber, now you have kind of a sheen on the rubber. It's kind of more slipperier, right? It's got a slick to it that it shouldn't have. It has that slick because of the plastic that's sitting on top of the rubber. If this covering here that didn't give it this cool design wasn't on here, the grip and feel would be better. It would be taffier, but because you have this cool design, now you have plastic on top of rubber, making it a little bit slippery. And the way I know that this is some kind of plastic cover on top of this rubber is because of this little flap right here. You guys see that? Look, you can tell that this flap that shouldn't be here is here because it's overlapped from the rest of the cover, this plastic cover on this rubber basketball. This is not acceptable to me. Now, this is not anything that's going to be detrimental to your game or it's going to mess you up or anything like that. It's just quality control by And1, man. It's like, come on, this is not acceptable. I understand the ball's only $18, $17, but like, this should not be here, right? It's not a big deal, but it's just the idea of like, come on, quality control. This should not be here. There's no excuse for this to happen to at least this degree. That's ridiculous. I will say that the pebbling on this ball is above average, meaning it's more round than the average pebbling on the average outdoor rubber basketball. It's a little bit more pronounced, so that helps with the overall grip. So when you combine the material of the ball and the pebbling together, that's what really gives you the overall grip of the ball. But even with that little bit more pronounced pebbling on this ball, it's still not really, it's not as well as you would like it to be. When you see the brand And1 and you think outdoor rubber basketball, you would think nice grippy rubber basketball, but not really. And look, I'm not trying to hate on And1 at all, but in my mind, when I think of And1 being the brand, the company that put streetball on the map, that brought streetball to the masses, when you think of like, even if this is their like introductory, very base level outdoor rubber basketball, I would expect more from this brand being And1 than some unknown rubber basketball brand. And because the grip is so, I would say it's below average for this company and this kind of a ball, it's just disappointing to me. As for the grip channels, I'm disappointed again because they're barely there. You can barely see them, you can barely feel them, you can barely use them. They're not quite as wide as other standard average basketball grip channels that are rubber and, in this price category. They're not really as wide as those balls. They're definitely not as deep or pronounced as I would like them to be. They're barely pronounced at all. Really, the only good thing about the grip channels on this ball are the seams within the grip channels. The seams are very well made. They're very good quality seams, nice and thick. And because the seams are nice and thick, you can feel them inside of the grip channels. In fact, that's really all you feel inside of the grip channels is the seam. You barely feel the grip channel itself. You mostly just feel the seam inside of it, which is nice and thick. Not only that, but you can't really even tell or see where the seams come together and meet. On a lot of basketballs, they meet right here in the middle of every grip channel in the center of the ball, which I don't like. I prefer them to meet right here on the corners, but these seams are so well made and such high quality, you can't even tell where they even connect. So that's nice, but the seams are not going to help you use this ball any better. You're not going to get any better performance out of this ball just because it has nice seams within the grip channels. That's like super niche in terms of features of a basketball. They're nice, they're well made, it's good construction in terms of the seams, but it's not going to help you play any better. I wish I could give you a better estimate as far as perceived durability, because all I can really say is who knows, right? The pebbling on this basketball being above average is good for durability because it will make the ball last at least a little bit longer, because the pebbling is better than the average basketball. But when you factor in the fact that this is just basic rubber and then it has this plastic wrap covering over top of it, I don't know how that's going to interact together. I don't know how plastic being wrapped on top of rubber is going to hurt or help in terms of durability of the basketball. Once you break this basketball in, which I have not really done yet, I've only had it for a few days. Once you break this basketball in and wear it down a little bit, there is a possibility that by wearing this plastic cover down on top of this rubber basketball, that you might lose some of that kind of sheen, right? Some of that, you might wear out some of that slipperiness and just have more grip because you've worn out the slippery part of the plastic. That may very well happen. I don't know. I can't tell you that for sure. But what is at least as likely is that when you start to break this down, especially the pebbling of this ball, it's going to break down rather quickly in my estimation. I would say you could get one good season out of this basketball with moderate basketball use and play, and then after that this ball is going to need to be replaced. That's my estimate. Which brings us to value, because value is determined a lot by how long a ball is going to last you. If you pay a lot of money for a ball but it lasts you multiple years, then throughout those years you get X amount of money out of that ball. But this ball is $18 and it's probably only going to last you one season. Are you willing to pay that $17 or $18 for one ball for one season? Think about it like this. You can get a very good quality, even just rubber basketball, that the construction of those balls will be to the point where you could get 2 seasons, 2 years out of those balls, but those balls are going to be more in the $30 price range. So you get 2 years for $30, or you get 1 year for $17 or $18. Like that's up to you how you would want to approach paying that price for said basketball. Keep in mind this is And1, it's an And1 brand ball. You do get that pump with the ball, but I would estimate that $17, $18 is a little much for a basketball that's only going to last you a year, even if it does come with a pretty basic pump. But also keep in mind, this, to the best of my knowledge, is one of the cheapest basketballs on the market today, especially for a name brand basketball such as And1. It's one of the cheapest balls on the market today that I know of. So if you're on a budget, if you're looking for like the cheapest ball you can get that still has a brand name associated with it, then this is one of your only options that I know of or can think of. And in terms of how this basketball is going to perform for you, it's going to be like it's what you see is what you get. If you were to feel this ball, see it on the shelf and feel it and all that, like you pick it up and go, okay, I think I understand, this is a ball intended for beginners, intended to be replaced after a year. For the year that you have it, it's going to work okay, it's going to be fine. The question is, do you want to pay, that $17, $18 for this kind of basketball? That is the And1 Chaos rubber outdoor basketball. Remember, intention and expectation. This ball, And1 intends it for new beginner basketball players, right? And that's the expectation you should have for it. Just because it has a certain audience intended for it that may not be you, does not mean that this is a bad basketball. It's just not necessarily for you. I'll tell you exactly who I would get this ball for. I would get this ball for a player or a person who I'm hoping to get into basketball. Someone who has not been playing yet, but you're hoping to get their feet wet. You're hoping to get them in the door on the court so that they can start experiencing the joy of playing basketball. And especially when we're talking about outdoor park basketball, this would be one of the best balls to achieve that goal, because you have the brand name in And1. And1's known for outdoor street basketball. And then you have the fact that this is just a cool looking basketball. It just looks cool. So I would get this for a kid who I wanted to get into basketball, who, with the intention of okay, the kid sees this ball and the kid thinks to himself, okay, the ball looks cool. I want to show off this ball to my friends or the people out at the court. So I will take this ball, I will go out to the court, I'll show it off. People will like it because they like the ball, because they know it's my ball, they associate it with me. Now they'll ask me to play with them. Then that kid now starts to play basketball, either using this ball or using someone else's ball. Hopefully, now that they have their feet wet, now that they're in the door on the court to start playing basketball, now hopefully they evolve into a more serious basketball player. They put this ball through its paces, it gets worn out, it needs to be replaced, and then when it gets to that point, they replace this ball with a more serious outdoor basketball. But I think this would be a great ball to get that kind of person on the court, because it's an And1 ball and it looks cool. It doesn't have to perform great. All it has to do is bounce and be able to be shot with, That's all a beginner player needs. You just want to get them on the court, get their feet wet, get them that experience let them feel the joy of playing basketball, and you do that by any means necessary. If that means getting them a below average basketball that's, that looks cool, if that's what it takes to get them on the court, then that's what you got to do. So just because this isn't a super advanced, super expensive, ball with all kinds of great features to it, doesn't mean it doesn't have a place. It does. You just have to find it and apply it to that situation. So if you want this ball, if you want to give it a try, if you want to get it to a new player or whatever the situation may be, make sure you use my affiliate links down in the comments and the description of this video to get this exact basketball. You can get other colors. They have other cool colors. You don't have to get this color, but to make sure you get this exact ball in whatever color you want, make sure you use my affiliate links down below. So I want to thank you guys for watching. If you found this video helpful, if you think it's going to help you decide if you're going to give this basketball a shot, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And make sure you hit that thanks button. When you hit that thanks button, it directly supports the channel. So if that's what you want to do, if you're down like that, I appreciate it. So make sure you hit the thanks button. And as always, like, share, comment, hit that notification bell so you're notified whenever any of my videos go live on this channel. And until then, I'll see you guys next week. Oh, and by the way, PS, in case you guys are at the store anytime and you see something like this, or in case there are any basketball companies that are watching, don't do this. See this And1 logo right here? It's completely flat. There's no pebbling here. This part of this ball, this whole section right here where this logo is, where there is no pebbling at all, this is completely useless. You can't use this part of the ball at all. It's completely flat. Your fingers are going to completely slide over all parts of this basketball. Don't do this. This is terrible. You can't use this part of the basketball. If you see this in the store where there's no pebbling, don't get that basketball. You can't use it. Basketball companies, don't make this. The only part of a basketball that should not have pebbling is the grip channels. Everything else needs pebbling. Do not make the cover of the ball flat without any pebbling. That makes the ball unusable. Or at least it makes this section of the basketball completely useless. And on this ball, it almost takes up the entire panel of this basketball. Don't do this. Avoid this at all costs.
And I done been through it all. Stood tall with my back against the wall, lost it all and got it back, and answer my call to the light from the dark, to healing a broken heart. Never give up. You gotta see the future in the bigger picture. This is the fight of your life. You're looking in the mirror, and the belief that you have will help you see it clearer. This is your moment of clarity. It gets no realer.